It is Thursday, April 7th, and we are about 2 weeks post the 2016 CrossFit Open. I want to talk today about basically what the rest of the year could mean to you and how we would approach it. And I put together this little presentation called The Open and the One Thing. Okay? So I'd like to just debrief the Open a little bit and then talk about what the next steps are for the rest of the year for your training and for your growth. Okay? So first of all, I just want to say everyone that participated in the Open to any degree, whether you completed one workout or you completed all the workouts, whether you did something amazing for yourself during the Open or you just survived it, you did it, and that's awesome and that's important. Personally, for me, like just showing up and having done all the workouts is a PR of sorts, because last year I only did 3 of them because I was scattered and couldn't get in for a couple weeks. So just showing up is 80% of it, and just getting through the workouts and having a positive experience with it is super awesome and important. Okay? I want you guys to all think about what some things you remember from each workout were, what your takeaways might have been each week, and then, of course, for the overall Open, what your takeaways might be. An example is maybe you were really scared, honestly, going into the workouts after the announcement, each week kind of building up this adrenaline experience. But maybe you're more capable than you think. Maybe you showed up and did the workout, and the reality wasn't as scary as the prospect and the worry. Okay? Another takeaway is that CrossFit is really challenging, and if you push yourself really hard for one workout, it's different than kind of just walking through and pacing multiple workouts. So not necessarily you need to do a ton of work, but if it's really focused and you're really intense for one workout, it can be a pretty powerful experience, okay? And you can grow just by learning how to push yourself harder in workouts, okay? Another takeaway that I'd like to suggest is that this community in our gym and the community at large is a really powerful thing. Maybe even more powerful than we realize. Being a beginning CrossFitter, it's definitely kind of shocking how much like the group manifesting itself motivates us. And then over the years, just like the enduring spirit that keeps us wanting more for ourselves. There's just so many great examples. The masters and teens workout, doing 16.4 or 16.3, I believe it was, with the snatches and muscle ups. How inspiring is that to see like these generations carrying on this legacy of CrossFit and hard work in the Open? Okay. A last takeaway I would suggest is that you just did a competition, and maybe it was okay. Maybe you competing is a good thing. Okay, maybe the prospect of like competition might not be as threatening now that you've done an actual competition in the gym and it went well. So we tend to kind of, we're aware that like competition can be scary, but if it's done right, it can be a really good thing. Okay, then I would suggest to many of you that, thinking about for the future what kind of competitions you might be interested in can really drive your growth and your progress. All right, so that's kind of reflective, preliminary stuff. Next, I would just like to talk about some data. You actually just completed a very kind of scientific thing in the Open. It's not perfect. Judging brings in all kinds of variables. What people are doing in different gyms brings in all kinds of variables, but 300,000 people participated in the Open. That's a huge statistical data set, and I want to look at that in a little bit of detail. I'm using Diego here as an example, okay? What we got here is, for 16.1, he placed 516th in Northern California for that workout, okay? In 16.2, he placed 3,527th. In 16.3, 2,825th. In 16.4, 598th. Okay, and in 16.5, 252nd. That was Diego's best performance in the Open. And by the way, I believe officially it was the first time someone legitimately beat me in an Open workout, and it wasn't even close. Okay, congrats to Diego. I really it motivates me, and it hits me there just to see someone kind of taking on that mantle and surpassing things I've done in the past and will continue to grow. All right, so what does this mean? Well, I hope you all can see just some variance here, okay? So not every week was the same, and this is what makes CrossFit and the Open such a great test of fitness, okay? So you could be killing it a couple different weeks, and then, oh, what happened there, okay? So you all should do this exercise for yourselves for sure. It can be really instructive, but just looking at the ranks by themselves, while interesting on face value, doesn't necessarily tell the whole story. So what I've done here is, here's a row for strength and a row for GOAT, which is basically, weakness, okay? And you'll have to reflect back, and hopefully this will encourage you to start taking more detailed notes on your workouts. You'll have to reflect back. What was 16.1? Oh yeah, it was that 20-minute AMRAP of overhead walking lunges. Okay, that was kind of a novel movement. Chest to bar pull-ups and burpees over the bar, okay? I don't have a super objective perspective on everyone's performance for every workout. It's often just hard to remember. But from what I can remember, I believe Diego was pretty strong at the overhead lunges, okay? And the burpees, okay? That's no surprise. And I believe for this workout, the chest to bar pull-up was a GOAT for him, okay? So even though that wasn't his worst placing workout overall, you should still try to identify within the workout where was your sticking point? What movements were you pretty proficient at? And where did you feel things grind to a halt? I actually did that workout head to head with him, and I could feel how we were pretty much the same on the lunges. I could pull away after a few rounds in the pull-ups, and that was kind of my advantage. And then he would actually catch up to me on the burpees. And over the course, though, the pull-ups would fall off, and that was where I could, have an advantage. And so for Diego, the chest to bar pull-up, and he knows this already, and we know this. He's got to work on making those better and more efficient, and getting stronger at his pull-ups overall. Okay, so that was 16.1, 20-minute AMRAP. I don't want to go through all these, but for example, 16.3 was the snatch and muscle-up workout. Okay, and I'm pretty sure he was blazing through the snatches pretty much. Okay, and then pretty sure that bar muscle-up was the limiting factor. Okay, and it was a limiting factor for a lot of people, which is why this one's still not quite as challenging as this one, okay? And so that's another GOAT. And the cool thing about this is that those two things are related, okay? So you can actually train the higher level movement, the muscle up, and it'll help the chest to bar to a degree, but it's good to know they're related, even though you should still practice each one as a skill individually, okay? Let's look at the last week here. The thrusters and burpees individually as movements, I would say are both actually strengths for him already. But in the scheme of what CrossFit entails, it's not just, rep for rep, movement for movement, is this a strength or weakness of mine? It's capacity and work capacity. So even in the workout that he placed the best at in relative to all the other workouts and did the best score in the gym, he can improve his work capacity in that workout overall pretty much simply by doing more CrossFit. He doesn't need to retool his thruster or retool his burpee, but that's just a long arc of progress to make yourself better. And just realizing, even a workout you do good at, did you do all the rounds unbroken on the thrusters? Did you wait 10 seconds instead of 5 seconds to finish the set and get back on the bar? There's so much room for growth. We watched the best in the world do this workout in 8 minutes or so. Diego did it in 10 or 11, I think, and or 12, can't remember. And so that's room for growth, obviously, even in something that's a strength on a relative basis, okay? You could do the same thing with the rest of these workouts, okay? And that in and of itself can be pretty instructive, but what do you do? What do you do with all that information, okay? So I wrote down here the basic outline for what a SMART goal is, okay? A SMART goal is a system for achieving your goals. That's more than just like, oh, well, I have a goal, so I'm gonna go work to get better at it. We can do a little better than that. So a SMART goal is this outline where you break it down into specific elements and you have a way to measure them. You make sure the goal is measurable. You make sure the goal is attainable. Make sure it's realistic. And make sure it's time bound, okay? So this is a way to focus more basically and whittle down what are some big picture items like I want to get better at CrossFit, okay? I want to get stronger, I want to build work capacity. Well, those are all long-term things. We can break it down into the midterm or mesocycle we call it of months, and we could even break down into the microcycles of weeks and days. What I really want to reinforce to you guys here, and this is the whole second half of the presentation and title, is the one thing, the value of the one thing. So you just completed the open, this very big thing, and now in order to optimize the rest of the year, I want you to really think, after all these workouts, highlighted my goats, what's the one thing I want to focus on now, okay? And not for the rest of the year, but I think probably the best way to go about this is a monthly focus, okay? So we're gonna do, for the gym programming going forward, for the rest of this year, a monthly focus, okay? And these are mostly gonna be, skills like handstand push-ups, like kipping either in general, or you could do T to B, C to B, muscle up, all that. It can also be something we already know how to do, but it's just, a strength element or just a capacity element that we could focus on via more strength work like the back squat. Back squat is king. And, thrusters and metcons could really help you guys that had a hard time with 16.5, for example, okay? So I want you guys to start thinking, what's the one thing I could focus on for a month and really, really see it through? What happens is, and the reason why I like this approach is, probably out of the overall picture, you'll get like 5 things at least that you need to improve upon at. And if you're only hitting like 5 things each one, like once a week, okay? So say I'm gonna do handstand push-ups on Monday and then pull-ups on Friday. That by itself is actually probably not enough, okay? Not enough training frequency for you to really internalize what it is about the movement you need to get better at and to see that progress through, okay? We see the most success in people that basically become obsessive about one thing. Miriam, Christian, both, Christian just got his first muscle up a few days ago. Go Christian. Miriam got her first glide kip muscle up on the bar right after the 3rd workout of the open when that came up, and she really just took it upon herself to train that pretty much every day, which is actually maybe a little bit too much to do for a month. So you want to be careful and make sure you're not overusing your joints and ligaments and whatnot. But that drive, that obsession to get over the hump and figure this thing out, that's what's going to make people successful on the movement-to-movement basis. And then eventually you can own that movement, okay? So I want you to think about, is it just a regular kipping pull-up? Am I stuck in the band still? Let me think about, and you can come talk with us, some ways I can start practicing that, 3 to 4 times a week, ideally 2 times a week kind of at the minimum, and really see that process through for 4 to 5 weeks. After that period of time is over, you're probably going to be pretty spent from working with that movement for so long. We'll have seen some progress, and then you can move on to the next focus, okay? And then you can move on to the next focus, okay? As a gym in our programming, we're going to have these focuses set to be, cover a broad spectrum, but it's not necessarily, because we're serving a population, it's not necessarily meant to line up with your individual weakness. That's why we have all this open gym time where you can come in and it really is only like 10 minutes. If you can put in 10 minutes of work at one thing 3 or 4 times a week, you're gonna see it improve rapidly, okay? So just get in your mind, I need to be so focused on this one thing that there's nothing that can stop me from achieving it, okay? And if you're having a dialogue with us, we are experts at teaching CrossFit and teaching people how to get better at their muscle ups, teaching people how to get better at their burpees, teaching people how to perfect their squat and their snatch and their clean and jerk. We're gonna make sure you're successful, okay? So go through this exercise for yourself. It can be really instructive. And then let's get a conversation started and figure out what you need to do at open gym time and as part of the regular CrossFit program to get to that next level and start building the beast for your road to the 2017 Open. All right, you guys, I hope you found this helpful. Until next time.